What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Pipeline, where we discuss the latest news of the week and whatever else we want to. So that's my intro. How's everyone doing today? Joey, Tom, Don, how are you all today?
Can I go first? Can I go first? Can I go first? I'm good.
I'm good. Thank you very much.
When you know it's good when Joey's that excited to say he's doing good. Chat, how are you all today? Are you guys seeing this? We had the thing scheduled for the wrong time.
They're seeing it. I checked. We're live.
Perfect. We're good. All right. Thank goodness. Yeah. All right. So we've got some piping hot news coming down the pipeline here. Let's go to our first story, which is Nintendo is opening a new store in San Francisco. It's opening up next year. It's going in Union Square specifically, a hot tourist center if you've been there. And I actually used to live not all that far from there. So I'm like, why didn't you do this 5 years ago, Nintendo, before I moved to Seattle? And where is your Seattle store? So yeah, kind of surprised that they're doing this. Anyone gonna Joey, you're the closest right now. Do you think you're gonna stop by Nintendo store when they open now?
Hell yes. I'm very excited for this. It's because I'm 2 hours away from San Francisco, 4 hours with traffic, so it's very exciting to see that they're finally opening a store pretty close to me. Yeah, I could have sworn they were opening an LA store, or was that just a rumor?
I think that's just a rumor. I have not heard of that. So
all right, because I was just sitting there thinking we need more stores outside of New York, and I was just thinking if there was one in LA, cool, but I'm still too far away from it. But San Francisco, perfect for me.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked it took them this long to open a new store, because not only did they rename Nintendo, I think it used to be the Nintendo World Store, right, to Nintendo New York years ago, probably more as preparation for Super Nintendo World, which would be confusing. But I also did seem to open up, the possibility of opening new stores. And Nintendo has been opening new stores in Japan. They have 3 of them there. But we've only had one in the United States this entire time, except for the internal employee store. And it's so weird to me that they're riding the highest of highs right now, and they set out the entire Switch generation, except with the New York store. I feel like you think they may have wanted to be a little more proactive in that time, but there was COVID, which could have thrown a wrench in the works. So.
Right. Yeah. I honestly feel that it is more in line to bring them in line with the Japanese stores, because the Japanese stores already started out being Nintendo Tokyo, Nintendo Osaka, and Nintendo Kyoto. So making your flagship store in New York the same name or the same naming convention makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and this is called Nintendo San Francisco, so makes sense. Too bad there's no Nintendo Sacramento.
Well, part of it could be, you open too many stores too quickly, they become less special. So
I guess it's true.
Yeah, but when it's just like one store for an entire country, I think you can get away with a quicker rate. I will say I was a little surprised to hear that they're opening up in San Francisco, just because there's a lot of course there's a lot of like reports about the state of San Francisco. A lot of them are exaggerated, but I did live there, and it's not entirely wrong. And so I was a little surprised to see Nintendo opening a store there, just knowing that there is going to be some stuff that happens around that store that you feel like Nintendo wouldn't want to be near, which is a little surprising to me. So I'm actually even if Union Square is overall a cool area, I'm just a little surprised Nintendo would choose a location.
Yeah, San Francisco is definitely like I was just there recently, and it's cost of living, stuff like that. The streets smell like homeless person crap, so like people just actually defecating in the streets. It's nasty. Okay. But it's
a lovely visual.
Yeah, it's fine, I think. Like San Francisco still gets a lot of tourists, and I think that's really what they're banking on here with this store, is that if the people who live in San Francisco aren't going to go there as much, you can guarantee that tourism is going to get them a lot of money.
And there is an Apple store just around the same area too. That's actually where I recorded the Mario Run demo years ago, since that was available in the store first. So
yeah,
I wonder what sort of statues or what of dioramas they have here, because every single store does something uniquely different in that regard.
Yeah, I was looking for the update I did this morning, Don. I used your video from, was it the Osaka store? I think. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, from the Kyoto store.
Kyoto, that's it. Kyoto store. And I'm like, man, this store looks so much better than the New York store. Right. And it's bigger, it's more spacious, it has more statues, and I really hope that they do something along those lines for the San Francisco store. I don't know what the footprint they're dealing with here is. I'm hoping it's bigger than New York because I love the look of the Kyoto store, and I hope that they match that aesthetic.
I think the Kyoto store was literally also the final boss of Japanese stores, because they literally figured out how to assess both a storefront but also making it look nice.
Yeah.
And I hope they take some design cues for the San Francisco store from that, because that's literally the best Nintendo store there is.
Yeah, fully
Yeah.
agreed.
Tokyo store is kind of just, it's got that neat stuff outside, which is behind me, but it's not as impressive as like Don's video of the Kyoto store.
No, it's the Tokyo store is actually super small. It's literally just a tiny bit of a floor, and that's mostly it. The
It's
Osaka
big.
one, yeah.
It's big compared to the other, like the Capcom store and stuff around it, though.
Yeah, it's really funny in that regard. The Osaka store did it a bit better, but honestly, I think once again the Kyoto store did such a good job, like integrating its own little design pieces and making also unique merch surrounding it, that it makes it also completely different from any other Nintendo store out there.
That's awesome. I mean, it makes sense. You're talking Kyoto still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what basically Nintendo's original hometown, right? So it kind of makes sense for that to be the potential flagship location. But I hope that they aim for that high for other locations as well moving forward. And yeah, I hope that this is just a trend for more stores to come. I like I said, where is the Seattle store, Nintendo? This is where your headquarters is based out of in the United States. I don't get it. So
like even the image from that article you just shown earlier, that's at the bottom floor of that shopping center in Kyoto. So even in the entrance, you get an immediately picture from, hey, there's something Nintendo related in this area. You should come.
Right. Yeah. I need to go one of these days. I have all the more reason for me to go back to Japan, Don. So
yeah,
one of these days. All right, let's move on to another news story here. Another hot one coming in, I believe, being that apparently, according to VGC, and more specifically, game leaker Bilby Kun, I believe, apparently there's a new Astro Bot game in the works for PlayStation 5, reportedly not for the VR. So I've never, like, I was so hyped until I saw that. I'm like, oh man, and not a VR. Like, I loved Astro Bot on the VR unit, and I wasn't too big on the, I know I'm in minority here, I wasn't too keen on the PS5 demo, the Astro Bot that came with that, and so I'm a little disappointed that they're not taking advantage of VR again. And it's like, what are you doing with their VR unit, Sony? What's the point?
I am not affiliated with this man.
I think Joey and I are in agreement that we actually loved it.
Oh my god. And I don't know how you can be disappointed that it's not going to be in VR, because it's just like the PSVR 2 just is not selling well, so it's not surprising that they're not.
Why do you think that is, Joey? There's no games for it.
I don't.
Hey, I'm only just saying that Sony is really bad with promoting its peripherals.
They are.
I'm just pointing it out there.
And yet their PlayStation Portal's like doing really well for some reason. How many of y'all think that people are buying that thing because they think it's actually like a PlayStation Switch and not a cloud device? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
yeah.
But anyway, this excites me.
Did you play? Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to excite a lot of people. I mean, it's just a new Astro Bot game. Period. It's like it's always felt like Nintendo or Sony's answer to like Nintendo platformers. Like it has that classic Nintendo feel, which is something Sony's kind of been lacking. Especially with Naughty Dog going in a much more mature direction than they used to be back in the day with Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter. So this kind of feels a nice niche. So I'm excited to see what form it takes. I'm hoping I'll like it more than the demo, because to me that very much just felt like a demo. So this will be a full game, and I'm curious to see what direction they go with it.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be announced here pretty soon, like in the next 15 days, they claim.
Yes.
So that must mean I mean, we're all thinking a PlayStation Showcase is going to happen here pretty soon too, but right before like the Summer Game Fest stuff. So yeah, this would be a great place to announce it, and hopefully it's out this year. And PlayStation did say they're not having there's not going to be like a big PlayStation Studios game this fiscal year. But I'm like, dude, if this is one of them, that's a big deal for me, honestly.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've not been excited recently by many of the exclusives by PlayStation outside of Spider-Man. This would get me right back on track.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I guess it's a bummer there's not like a PSVR 2 like mode, maybe. If this is, for one, game's not even confirmed yet, right? But even still, I'm just bummed that, okay, if they announce this game, they gotta announce another thing with it. They gotta say, oh, by the way, the first Astro Bot's gonna be on PS5, whether you have PSVR 2 or not. Like, I think that would be really great, because I still haven't played Astro Bot Rescue Mission. Because
well, no wonder you are so impressed by the demo, Joey.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a step down from the VR one. You gotta play it. If you like the demo, you'll love the VR one. It is such a great game. It practically justified the entire PlayStation platform.
But Andre, you're stuck on PlayStation VR with the breakout box. I don't want to bring out the breakout box again.
Breakout box?
Yeah, the breakout box of VR 1.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no way for me to play it without buying a PSVR 1. And that's the thing, right? You'd think, hey, Sony should at least, what would help PSVR 2 sales is if they just put Astro Bot 1 on the PSVR 2. But they don't.
Do that as a precursor to this game coming out. If you had like shadow dropped, and part of it too is this: the showcase is supposed to happen in May, and they have that sale starting on the 29th. So Wednesday the 29th, probably be a good time to do that. Get ahead of Summer Games Fest.
For sure.
Yeah. I would want that more than almost anything, Tom. I would sell all of your parents to get Astro Bot.
I was just saying, as soon as Astro Bot 1 drops on some sort of PlayStation VR 2, or in one way or another, I would rent a PlayStation VR 2 for that small period of time.
I'm impressed you can rent one. So.
Oh, you can, yeah.
I remember renting the Virtual Boy back in the day from Blockbuster. That's the precursor to PlayStation VR.
Oh, that's right. Without the Virtual Boy, we wouldn't have VR in the state that it's in today.
That's right. Hey, Robert, good seeing you in the chat.
Yes.
Tom, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, it's like, is Joey saying it's in a positive or negative state?
You never know with me. You never know. All right. We got a good, not to change topics like all of a sudden, but Mr. Nerd in the chat says, hey guys, you gotta look at the new Sonic Movie 3 poster. And I feel like that's something worth talking about because I don't get the hype about it. Andre, you and I saw this. I'll send you a link in the Discord chat right now so you can click on it.
I got it here.
You got it right here? Okay, we need to talk about this poster because everyone's gassing it up like it's something exciting. And let me tell you, it's like the most like user-made looking poster I've ever seen. It doesn't even look official. So this was blowing up this week because, people are desperate for Sonic Movie 3 content or Sonic Movie 3 trailer because we thought we were going to get one last week. And I guess this is like an official Paramount-made poster thing. For one, we've all seen those Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails renders before.
Because they're from the Sonic 2 movie?
It's so off to me.
Oh, you broke up there.
Oh, yeah, they're from the Sonic 2 movie. Yeah. Yeah, I totally noticed that. But what gets me about the shadow image here, this looks like it's just the shot in Sonic 2 where his eyes open, but like the AI generated the rest of him, if that makes sense. His mouth looks off, and the body looks accurate at least. But like, I guess you could say this is an official look at Shadow, but is it though? It's so weird.
This screams like design is my passion.
Yes, graphic design is my passion. Yeah, it's so funny. But the fact that this image is blowing up means like Sonic fans are starving, right?
That's exactly what it shows. Like people just want to see people were expecting the trailer weeks ago. It's still not here. At this point, it seems like Summer Games Fest may be the time, but who knows?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just shows a pent-up demand to find out anything about this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Team Sora said that shadow was pulled straight from Sonic 2. It totally is. And yeah, what is that mouth? What is that mouth? That looks like Kermit the Frog's mouth.
It's like, I don't know, he looks like a Yeti or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It's so bizarre. Yeah, he's like, Maria.
All right, well, moving on. There has been a rumor, Joe, I think you know more about this, but the rumor at least involves the potential of Kingdom Hearts 4 coming to the next Nintendo hardware platform, being, of course, Switch 2 or whatever that is. Is there more to this rumor, Joey?
There's a little bit, but it's not like exactly related. I forgot what it is, so I don't need to see the rest of Midori's tweets. But basically, so the Kingdom Hearts franchise it's coming out on Steam. That was announced this week that it's coming to Steam, which is a big deal because people hate that it's on the Epic Games Store on PC. But then Midori added to this saying she heard about this a while back, but didn't exactly believe it. So she brought up the other information she heard a while back, especially the fact that the entire Kingdom Hearts series and even Kingdom Hearts 4 might be coming to the next Nintendo hardware, Switch 2, whatever it's going to be called. So I think that's pretty much it. She also said something about Kingdom Hearts expanding into other IPs, which I guess means that Kingdom Hearts is coming to Fortnite or something. I don't know much about that, but what matters most is like they're going to be expanding the Kingdom Hearts franchise to Nintendo hardware. But hey, the Kingdom Hearts franchise is already on Switch, right, Don? Right?
Yeah,
Via the cloud.
Via the
so
cloud,
stupid.
And
Majority of those games are PS2 games. You're telling me they can't run on Switch? Come on.
Even worse is that, they're still asking full price for the cloud versions.
Oh my god, that's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Like, this sort of lines up, and I sort of believe it. The reason why is that the change of strategy of Square Enix, where they basically said, hey, we are not really doing exclusive games anymore and releasing games as many platforms as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Because that is effective to our current strategy.
Yeah. So I totally believe this. I think this is 100% real. Like she did say might though in this tweet, so they're at least talking about it, which I feel like is believable.
I think it's a total no-brainer. Like with the way things are going, with SquareSoft sales being down, Sony also struggling. I mean, comparatively, they're doing mostly okay, but I think it just makes sense. Like they need to reach a broadest user base possible. Nintendo Switch is probably going to be it. Switch 2 is likely to continue that trend. Right. If not immediately, it will, likely in the future. Mm-hmm. And even if not, that's still a larger demographic you want to reach beyond just what the PS5 platform can. And unless Sony seriously money hats them, I can't imagine Kingdom Hearts 4 not coming to Switch 2. Especially if if it's as powerful as it seems like it would be, it should be capable of running it, even if it doesn't end up looking quite as good. I think it's almost like a sure bet. I would bet on this. I would bet on this happening.
I would bet my house on this.
Even if Sony money hats them, it could be a timed exclusive on PlayStation 5, and then it just comes out later on Switch 2.
I wonder though how they currently feel about the deals they've made with Sony, especially with the remakes of Final Fantasy VII, because that could have reached a far bigger audience right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
By
being multi-platform instead of solely focused on only PlayStation 4 or 5.
Is it? Yeah, but are you talking PC mostly, or Xbox, or Switch as well?
To some degree, hopefully with the next Nintendo system, it actually makes sense to bring it to Nintendo.
Right.
But
yeah, I think that's probably the main issue right now is that just Switch probably can't run Final Fantasy VII at anything that looks close to how it does now.
Yeah.
But I think with the next system, we might get that. So
I do think that Square Enix's current strategy is spread their wings as much as it possibly can. Because I do think Nintendo has a far bigger foothold also in the Japanese market than PlayStation now has.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't really feel like out of Sony, there are not many exclusive Japanese games. They have timed exclusives that they're currently focusing on, but out of Astro Bot, which games really come internally out of Japan from their side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a good question from the question mark man, really living up to his name. Besides Kingdom Hearts 4, do you guys think that the Final Fantasy VII reimagined games will come to Switch 2? I could have sworn that they were supposed to be timed PlayStation exclusives, but from what I know, did they ever come out on PC, or are they still on PlayStation?
The original one is on PC, and I think that I'm not sure how much the time window really was, but when it came out, when 7 Remake came out during the pandemic, at the end of the year, it came out on the Epic Store during the Game Awards.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that because I know that was supposed to be timed, but it never came out on Xbox or any other platform. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be part of Square Enix's strategy also, because I know they were very disappointed by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales, which is just part of it's Square Enix's ridiculous sales projections or expectations, but. Yeah, it doesn't help that half of the PS4 user base is still playing on PS4 and not PS5. So
I think that's a major issue, particularly in that regard, because once again, there are not that many exclusive Japanese games on the PlayStation 5 for those types of people to move over to a new platform.
Well, I wonder too how many people maybe bought the first one, never beat it yet, and so they're hesitant to play the second part. So.
Oh yeah, it's almost guaranteed that sequels never sell as well as the first game because people don't finish the first game. I mean, even Tears of the Kingdom did really well, but it still hasn't sold like as many as Breath of the Wild has. But I think it's still sold like over like I feel like it sold like 2/3 of what Breath of the Wild sold, which
in
is
just
still
a year
very
too. Whereas Breath of the Wild's had 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely applies more, I think, to like story-based ones, like direct continuations, whereas Zelda it doesn't really care about that.
What is
Zelda
what
happened in the first game? Zelda beat the bad guy. So Zelda beat the bad guy. But
real quick, we have a fun chat from Disney Duncan. Haven't heard you guys talk Kingdom Hearts and Sora Kingdom Smash. I think we had a video or two since then. Like I think Don, did you cover Kingdom Hearts for us on Switch or?
I might have done a little bit.
Yeah, I can't.
Might have been an amiibo.
The music game.
I might have done a bit of a gameplay video on some sort of cloud version that came to Switch at some point. I mean,
did they have a Kingdom Hearts music-based game, rhythm game, or something?
Yes, Melody of Memory.
Yes. Okay.
That was at least native to Switch.
At least, right?
I mean, also Indie Zero is a master at managing multiple platforms, so obviously it would run perfectly on Switch.
Yeah. Well, the future looks bright for Kingdom Hearts, so it looks like a lot of people are going to be able to play Kingdom. I believe this game's coming to Switch too.
I believe it too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially again with the rumors of the Switch 2's power, it's just going to make a lot of sense for more ports to come. And speaking of which, we have a surprising news in that Nintendo has acquired another company. They're kind of on a what's where I'm looking for, like a
acquisition train.
I guess there we go, the acquisition train. At least across a few different years. This time they're buying Shiver Entertainment from the Embracer Group. That famous group. So they're 100% buying the company from them, and this is a company that specialized in ports already across multi-platforms for Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 11, the Harry Potter game, the newer one, and what else, Joey? They had something else in there too, I think.
They did Mortal Kombat 1 and 11, and they did Scribblenauts. They did it's weird. So people were assuming they did the Scribblenauts games, but they didn't do they did the non-Nintendo ports of some Scribblenauts games, like the last two, I believe. I forget the DC one and the one after it. But yeah, they kind of have that under their repertoire, if you will. But yeah, Nintendo is interesting in that they acquire studios that make sense to acquire, like Next Level Games a few years back, which mostly did Nintendo games anyway. So they're not like Microsoft and just we're going to buy this studio, and shut them down. They're not like that. It seems like they're buying this studio. I think they even said this in the statement, to bring basically to bring ports and develop software for multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch. So notice that with the wording there, they still say Switch. But I guess maybe that'll be all-encompassing because the next console's going to have Switch in its name, guaranteed. So, yeah, it's interesting. Because the ports they've made aren't exactly the best Switch ports, Mortal Kombat 1 especially. I've heard mixed things about Hogwarts Legacy, which I guess turned a lot of things, really brought down the open world a lot. Yeah. So
I will say with Hogwarts Legacy, obviously that did really well in Japan on Switch. I think that might have a slight advantage there for Shiver Entertainment regarding to NCL.
That might be true. Yeah, I didn't know it did so well in Japan. I mean, it helps that Switch is now the best-selling console in Japan. So,
yes,
yeah.
Also, the funniest about this entire statement: there's only $10 in capital stock.
That's right. Yeah. So invest now, everyone.
with this, I think they know their third parties are sometimes a weakness, and they hired that sort of executive to help them with it earlier in the year. This could be part of it if they offer a service to port games to it, and it could have just been a fire sale as well from Embracer Group. So
a fire sale,
yeah, it could have just been a really good price for them. So it's going to be an option they can offer to third parties and help make sure that's stronger on Switch too.
Yeah, you could really say Nintendo embraced this acquisition.
I mean,
yes, I succeeded.
Let's be honest here. Who really wants to be still in the Embracer Group?
I have a friend that works in the video game industry, and I forgot his company is owned by Embracer. I'm like, oh god.
Oh really?
I just needed a minute.
Welcome back, Joey.
Thank you. You're lucky I was wearing pants today.
I think we all are.
That's the risk of a pun.
So. That's how we got our channel removed again from YouTube.
Oh God.
But yeah, I think Tom, I'm guessing that it was just like fortunate circumstances, like serendipitous, in that there's probably a lower price. Embracer's trying to load companies with them hemorrhaging money at this point, it seems, and Nintendo saw an opportunity there. Which Nintendo, as I think Joe was saying earlier, they seem much more strategic in their acquisitions than Microsoft. Just takes more of like a shotgun approach, just buys whatever they can, regardless of the damage that ends up happening, the collateral damage. And so this is still an interesting move, though, just because. Nintendo is buying a company that I don't think they've had much direct relation with currently, besides beyond the games being on their platform. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, if they're pursuing a different third-party strategy moving into Switch 2, like trying to not only maintain the momentum they have, but actually build on it this time. And I also wonder about them, suggesting that they'll keep making games for multi-platforms, if that only applies to deals currently in the works, or if they'll even keep that going, perhaps as a way to ensure that Switch isn't left out. Our company will make ports for every platform. Just give us your game, we'll make it happen. So.
Yeah.
The language is so ambiguous that I'm almost inclined to say that it just says Switch and future platforms of Nintendo.
That could be. Yeah. And that's possible too. It does make you wonder, like, would there be a conflict of interest there? Like, could the Switch 2 end up being the best of these ports, for instance? But I know there are other companies, like, look at like Amazon or Google hosting their own cloud services. They're used by their competitors, right? And I don't think it'd be that big of a deal ultimately, but we'll see what happens. So, ultimately, I don't think this changes all that much for like Nintendo, like first party game fans, but for people who buy, who enjoy third party games on Switch, you could be getting more of them and better ones perhaps on the next platform, or maybe even current Switch. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, let's move on to, speaking of acquisitions, another surprising news, I think possibly even bigger news, honestly, is IGN acquiring gamer network sites, including Eurogamer, GI, what is that one? GameIndustry.biz, I think.
Yes. Yeah, GameIndustry.biz, yes.
Yeah, and VG247 or VG247, Rock Paper Shotgun, like a bunch of sites, and that includes I think their subsidiaries as well. So IGN is like just going on this massive buying spree with this purchase, and it's just wild to me. Like, I used to work at IGN, and back then they had just been purchased by Fox Digital Interactive, I think, their digital side, and it's just been sold to MySpace, and I don't even know who owns IGN at this point. It might still be MySpace. I think they sold them off to someone else. I don't even know. Are they maybe IGN self-owned at this point? I have no idea.
I think IGN is now self-owned under IGN Entertainment.
That makes sense then for why this acquisition is phrased this way. But yeah, it's just interesting to see all these media sites falling under a larger singular company's banner. And I can't help but think this doesn't seem like a great thing.
Oh no, everyone hates this. I'm going to tell you. Like, the first thing when I first found out about this is because a journalist, I forget who, someone I know, retweeted this saying, "This is bad." And I think a lot of people did lose their jobs after this acquisition too.
I double checked. They're still owned by Ziff Davis at this stage.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
That's Davis. Right. Okay, Ziff Davis. I forgot. That's the latest buyer. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Which I think they themselves, I think. Oh, I guess, aren't they merged now? Isn't it like Ziff Davis / IGN? I think they're the same. They might be the same company now.
Yeah, maybe they are. Yeah, but still. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So
yeah. Just kind of crazy to see this consolidation happening. Which I don't see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there won't be a difference perceived on the end user, but we've seen how these things go. Like, where you guys are talking about the what's a Kotaku company that owns them?
Oh god,
that's an entire mess.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean, though. Like, tons of layoffs over the years or months, whatever. And I can't help but worry if this is something similar is going to happen here, because ultimately, like, a lot of these websites that they're buying are they're competitors to IGN. So I don't know if it makes.
Yeah, so there are already people being laid off.
Yep.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Including the editor-in-chief of GameIndustry.biz.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens. Like any redundant positions get removed because from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense to keep them if you already have people capable of that, and that sucks. That it's an unfortunate side effect.
And another one was a news editor that have been at VG 24/7 for 15 years also was let go.
15 freaking years. That's insane.
So we already see a lot of redundancies across all of those sites and outlets.
Yeah. And what else happens too is the people who've been there the longest are often the first targets because they have the highest salaries. They're the ones who've gone the annual raises, if not more, and so they're the easiest targets to pick off when you acquire a company. It's like, oh, let's look at the payroll. There we go. There are top people laid off. So, it's gonna be interesting to see how things shake out, but I don't see it shaking out in an especially positive way looking long term here.
Somebody made a good funny image saying like what video game reviews are going to look like for the next in the next 10 years or something, and they took the image of like Starfield's accolades but replaced every critic name with IGN. So like different review score, different review scores from IGN about Starfield 2 or something. It was just like, yep, that's accurate.
Yeah,
Starfield was unique that it didn't really release it to a whole bunch of people.
What I find also interesting with Eurogamer, and not many people know this, but Eurogamer has a bunch of spin-off sites for different countries, and IGN has that as well. So I wonder if they will form together into all one site, or they actually are competing within the same company against one another.
Yeah, this is very messy, Don. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess would be, at least in the short term, they're going to largely operate as they have been, as effectively competitors. But you think, I feel like something's going to change down the line to, make that less so, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense if you're producing redundant content, just from a business perspective. Yeah. And I feel like that's going to cause some change in the next, couple of years.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll see. Interesting. The game industry is going through some, I feel like growing pains right now across the board.
Yeah, seriously.
It's a bad time for the industry right now, so that's why games companies are taking less risk again, and games media, it's harder too as a result, I guess.
And
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Joey.
I was gonna say, at least Nintendo seems to be operating like they used to. Like nothing seems to be changing too much on their end. And hey, guess what? I'm working on another video about that. Yay! Stay tuned.
That's right. Should be a good one. So, I will say I could be ignorant on this because I don't know the full circumstances of it here. But there is a possibility that I know games media has had trouble itself on a per company basis across many different websites, and there is a possibility that, had this acquisition not happened, maybe some of these websites would have been shuttered in the near future. I don't know. I don't know if there's any information about that, but that is a possibility that maybe this saved these websites. Perhaps, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe it says also a bit about the state of ReadPop, because obviously they had a lot of, I would say, losses of the last 2 years, especially after the whole E3 debacle.
Yeah. That's a good point too, right? They were supposed to be the ones who brought back E3 this year, right? And that didn't happen.
That last year, and maybe the time before that as well. But yeah,
but then they also announced that it would happen this year, right? Then they ended up canceling everything. Yeah, perpetual cancellation. Wow,
I miss the old days. I know that's just an old head thing to say, but I miss the old days.
I miss the pre-internet days. I miss getting my Nintendo Powers every month in the mail and my EGMs.
I do miss watching live streams for Real Player.
All right, I know you're lying about that one, Don. No one misses Real Player. Oh man, I think that's how I try to watch that Smash Brothers, that Lost Media Smash Brothers thing that I started the whole search for. I'm like, does anyone remember this thing? And I remember I spent so long trying to tune in via Real Player on my 56K modem. I finally got it working, and it was the very end of the match. I caught like the final 30 seconds of it.
Oh man,
can't believe that. So this is back in the Smash 64 days. Anyways. I think. Oh no, we have one more big news story. I don't have a story related to this or anything. A big game came out this week. 1,000 Year Door remake on basically the 20th anniversary of the game within the same year. We finally have this game remade after a decade plus of people begging for this to come back. We finally have it. I think most of us have been playing it, except for me. Tom, have you been playing it too or no?
I'm going to be playing this weekend.
All right, nice. So we'll have to ask for your thoughts on it next week. Have you played? You played before though, too, right?
Only a bit.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get it on GameCube, and I missed out, and then it's $1 million. So,
well, yeah, that's the thing. Most people didn't, because most people didn't have GameCubes, and even those who did, there's been generations of people born since then. There's a huge amount of people who've never played this game. They're finally now getting the chance. And Joey, you're one of them, I think, right?
Yeah, I had the original. I played maybe 4 hours of it. I think I got to the second chapter, probably, maybe third. I don't remember. It's been a long time. And I stopped playing it, so I traded it in for something else. And I've been regretting that decision every day since, after seeing the eBay prices.
Yeah, it was an investment. Your retirement fund.
Yeah, and it was gone. My retirement fund just like flew away. And then I saw the remake get announced, and I'm like, yes, I am now like the guilt has been lifted off of my chest. And currently, I'm still on chapter 1. I've been playing this game at a very slow pace.
It's a slow-paced game too.
It is, yeah, especially now that you can't like speed up the dialogue. But I'm still having a great time with it. Like it's just a pretty game to look at. I really like just looking at this game. It looks really good. And right now I've just been fighting the same enemies over and over and over again. So I'm kind of getting a little bit like, ooh, hopefully this combat doesn't get stale on me quick. But I imagine there's going to be a lot more different enemy types later on.
Pro tip, you can honestly either avoid or run away from most battles and you'll be fine. I was running away from plenty of battles in my stream and I was doing just fine in the game. So.
Okay, cool. Because I was worried, like, what if I don't get a level up in time or something?
So what's actually kind of cool, maybe some might look at this as a negative, the Paper Mario games do a really good job of balance. So if you're ever under leveled, then they really start cranking up the XP you get from battles. So it basically, it always ensures you're always within like a range of where you need to be. So
sweet, awesome. All right, that's good to know. I'm really looking forward to keep playing this game. Totally, finally beat it, erase it off of my backlog. Retro comparisons in the chat. Paper Mario the $1,000 door. Yes. but you know what's funny? I'm also thinking about like when I beat this game, do I go play other Paper Marios? That's what I was thinking about too, because for some reason that's how my goblin brain works. Because I was just like, I have never played the Origami King. Maybe I should play the Origami King after this, and also Super Paper Mario. I know they're vastly different games, and Thousand Year Door is considered the best. But it's gonna be excited, like them bringing this game back from the dead, essentially, and hopefully, like this game sells well. It's #1 on the eShop, which I don't know if that says too much, but it's still like a really good sign that maybe classic Paper Mario will be back from here.
Don, you're playing it too, right? How are you liking it?
Yeah, I'm currently at the start of chapter 4, so probably one of my favorite chapters in the entire game. So I'm looking forward to seeing that the end part of that chapter.
That's my favorite chapter too. Yeah. I love that chapter.
I mean, 3 is also pretty good, like Glitzville.
Yeah, no, 3 and 4. Those are actually my favorite. Those are my favorite too.
But like 4 is by far, when it's cemented when I was young, that cemented me as like one of my favorite games ever. So I'm like really. No, absolutely freaking not. No. No.
Sorry, Robert. Don's disagreeing with you here.
So for context, I replayed it on a stream about 6 years ago, and Andre was in the chat cackling.
That sounds about right.
I have scars of that game. No, ever, never again. But no, I've been really enjoying it. And the only thing that gives me a bit of pause is that it feels like some of the timing of the battle mechanics, I feel I have to relearn my timing a little bit.
100%. This is why people who say that the 30 frames per second is unnoticeable, they're lying. They either just can't tell or they're wrong. Because I immediately noticed. Granted, I was playing the Thousand Year Door on GameCube the day before, so that probably added to it. But yeah, obviously you can tell just looking at it, but it does change the timing of the attacks in battle as well. Now, apparently Nintendo tried to compensate for that by adjusting it entirely, but there was like one attack I had no problem with on GameCube in defending it, and I couldn't do it at all on Switch. I'm like, what is happening here?
I feel like I'm doing very little stylish moves throughout my journey so far. Like, it's very few and far between. Color Splash do be underrated. I agree with that.
That's my third favorite Paper Mario. So I fully.
That's
agree
so
with
cool.
Mine too.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's so cool. I've only heard like people just dog on Color Splash for the longest time, but but apparently the writing in it is peak from what I've heard.
It's the best in the series, in my opinion.
I also
Really?
think that the way they did, because other more modern Paper Mario games did also some ways of item management. I think that is the best one when it came to item management, how you handle that with the colors and everything.
The gamepad? Or,
but also not just the battle system in general.
Right.
Because the ones that came before and after, they sort of stripped away from that, and they sort of moved away what made Color Splash kind of fun to deal with.
Now I regret not picking up Color Splash when the Wii U eShop was alive. So I'm looking at the eBay prices. It's still reasonable to get a physical copy, but it's like $44. So not like it's not $100, but you know,
not $1,000
price. But going back to the $1,000.
Speaking of that game.
I mean, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I think that some of the music is also some of the newer music. The instrumentation throws me off like a little bit. Like the music in Rogueport, I kind of have to adjust myself to it. It's like knowing that this is new and they went completely baller with it. I do think that the title theme, the new version of the title theme, goes really hard.
It does, and I do like the. So I don't have like much nostalgia connection to the original Thousand Year Door, so the music is like. So the new music is almost irrelevant to me, but I do like. I did hear the opening, like with the storybook. I do like the new version of that more than the original. I think that goes way harder.
Yeah, that's really cool. Sense. I mean, and I think Nintendo knew that, but they basically forced you to watch it now. Whereas on the GameCube, you could skip it.
Yeah, true.
I think the most important thing to me is that the game hasn't lost a step when it comes to its heart and soul.
Yes.
I was sort of worried by that a lot.
I wasn't too worried. I probably because I played it a few years ago, so I'm like, it still holds up. But yeah, I hear you. But it's been 20 years, and especially with all the changes Paper Mario has had, it's like no, this is still like a good core here. And yeah, I will say like I've been impressed. The things overall the graphic upgrade is really good
for sure.
There's a couple areas where mostly Rogueport, I still think it looks a little too bright, a little too clean for me.
Yeah.
The interiors in particular, I love how they handle the interiors. Like the lighting really brings these environments to life in a way that they didn't quite have before. So
Glitzville is really pretty.
It is pretty. Also, even I don't like the chapter otherwise, but even Bogman Woods outside, like that ground texture looks so nice now.
Yeah, so Nintendo Gamer for Real said no white outlines V1. I actually saw something on Twitter today about how like they were planning to put the white outlines in there, make them more apparent, and I'm just like, well, glad they didn't do that.
I just realized something that I found weird about the version of the game. It's like, so when I went to the back street of Rogueport, I found the camera angles really bad. Did anybody notice that? Like the way that the camera moves is not as smooth as maybe the GameCube.
I did. Yeah. It cuts now as opposed to just being a smooth transition.
Yeah. I noticed that in my comparison when I did that. I was like, oh, what? That's kind of a bummer, really. But I did like how it's weird, right? The dialogue is slow in this game, slower. You can't really speed it up. But they do make some adjustments. They cut out some redundancies in the cutscenes, like Peach's intro is faster on the new one because they cut out like her like making an expression. They cut out some dialogue too. And there was something else. Oh yeah, when Mario gets hit by that pickpocket at the beginning too, they totally just gloss over the fact that he lost coins. You see him lose coins, but they don't make a big deal about it. They just move on right away. So I like that stuff. Even still, like it's like it still like balances out because like it's faster in some ways, but not faster in others. It's wild.
Ultimately, I do think overall it's a net positive.
Yes, I believe so too. Mr. Nerd asks if you're British American, Don.
I'm Dutch.
Yes.
And one other thing I appreciate too is how Nintendo handled Vivian in this game, which I honestly found shocking. I thought for sure they would stick to the original U.S. translation, and the fact that it seems to be more accurate of the original Japanese one and being respectful of the source material and handling the character is awesome. Yes. And I think it deepens what was already a great character. I think probably the best partner in the game. And I just love like what it adds and how they handled it overall. Like I'm still shocked Nintendo, one of the most conservative companies out there, actually went as far as they have. And I'm like, hats off to you in that case. Like that's
for sure
an objective upgrade.
But like Joey also said, they made the overall the script a lot snappier.
For sure. Yeah. And I want to know another thing too. Visually, how does it compare to, because I've never played Origami King or even Color Splash. Like,
Sure.
did they go harder on this game's visuals than in those games? Because I feel like there's a lot here that I didn't notice from what I've seen of the more recent Paper Mario games. Like, I don't remember those games having like really good screen space reflections.
They didn't.
Or
Yeah,
like
not that I recall.
reflectors lighting. Okay, so yeah, it really seems like they did go hard on the visuals. So that's really cool. But of course, it stinks that the game doesn't run at 60 FPS as we keep bringing up. You know, a lot of people say it really doesn't matter, but I'm like, I feel like this is a good thing to talk about because it's rare to see a remaster or a remake of a game that previously ran at 60 FPS actually have an objective downgrade in this case.
It annoys me out of principle, Joey. Like whether or not it bothers you personally or not.
Yeah.
Objectively, had any other company did this, they would be getting dragged through the mud.
Yes.
Why is Nintendo exempt from the frame rate debacle? I don't understand it. Anyone else would have been instantly destroyed. And it does bug me that even Nintendo didn't think to preserve this. I just don't. Obviously, they're reusing the Origami King engine. Maybe it's a limitation of it. You know, one would have hoped that they could have upgraded in that time. But still, like out of principle, I would think matching the fluidity of the original game would have been a priority, even if the end result is the visuals aren't quite as good as they could have been. We would be none the wiser had we not seen what it is now, right? It's like, no matter what, it will look like a huge upgrade from the original GameCube version. And it's just surprising to me that they could not match the fluidity of a game from 20 years ago on far weaker hardware. And that does bug me in principle. Even if it isn't that big of a deal, the game's still playable. But you could say that about almost any game running at 30 versus 60. It's like they're all still playable. It's just, yeah.
You know what game also, you know what remaster also looks impressive and still runs at 60 frames per second?
Metroid Prime Remastered,
yes.
Exactly. Retro Studios gets it.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So either way, it doesn't really deplete my enjoyment too much of the game. I'm really looking forward to keep playing it. But yeah, you gotta think, not to put my conspiracy theory like cap on. You gotta think, did they mean to wait for the Switch 2 for this game? And the Switch 1 port was going to be 30, while the Switch 2 version is going to be 60. I mean, those colored buttons.
I don't think that, but I do think I hope it'll have a Switch 2 patch that will allow you to run at, 60. The buttons are convincing, but I think it makes sense to put this game on the Switch 1 to reach a broadest user base possible.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure.
Now, especially for the future of Paper Mario, where people want a sequel to this style of gameplay rather than, Origami King. So.
Yeah. I would argue that if this was a brand new Paper Mario, 100% it would have been destined for Switch 2. But being a remaster, it's just like making sure it gets on the Switch 1 before Switch 2, build up that Paper Mario audience, and have them more hyped for any new one on the next console.
Yeah, exactly. So,
for sure.
So overall, good game, still good. It turns out Nintendo did not screw it up. So
that's the verdict. Good game, still good.
Good game, still good. All right, that's going to bring us to our topical freeze. Where's my banner? There it is. Yeah, topical freeze for the week. So this time, I have a topic that we just came across a few days ago. I want to talk about being it's from an interview with the Multiverse's director, in which they are discussing data miners and how that does a disservice to the players. So let me go ahead and read a quote we have here from them. They say it's an arms race. So it'll be constant protections against new and creative ways to data mine. At the end of the day, we've done a lot. We've learned a lot, but again, it's an arms race. I can't promise that there won't ever be leaks or anything like that. But on our end, we're done, I think, above and beyond what industry standards and protections there are. That being said, everyone's very creative and they're just very, very smart. We're reacting and we put a lot of stuff in place. I'm just continuously impressed by the level of ability to get through things. And then he continues saying, I think it's a disservice to the players. Also, that these things are ruined, being things like announcements, and it's deflating for the team as well. But more importantly, I wouldn't use the word depressing. It's just unfortunate for the players. They don't get the grand reveal that we had planned, and a lot of the air is sucked out of the room. And then he goes on to say that they're looking into trying to prevent that in the future as well. So the point more is that he is saying that these data mines can ruin hype effectively. Takes the air out of the room, makes it unfortunate for the players. Do we agree with that? Do we think that's the case? Do we think data mines are harmful? Is it always the case that they're harmful? Can they be used for good? What's the deal here?
I don't know if I would say the word harmful, because it's just like really what harm comes from like a spoiled surprise, honestly. But yeah, they are kind of a bummer, right? It kind of I get it though. I really do. I do like to be surprised when things happen. Like imagine if the Smash Bros characters got data mined. I know like some of them might have been leaked.
I think some of them did, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's also easy to not believe those leaks at the same time, because it's just like, oh, fan favorite characters coming to Smash, and I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. Banjo-Kazooie, Sora, give me a break, and then they happened. But still, I get where he's coming from, and I really do. I don't really think I disagree with it, honestly, but I don't have a strong enough feeling about it, if that makes sense. I don't know how else to explain it.
I'm gonna say on this one that it's not as impactful, perhaps, because let's say with Multiversus, what was it, the Joker was kind of revealed a long time ago, so you don't get the trailer with it. Like, can you imagine if we all knew Banjo was coming out compared to like seeing that trailer and like, is it, and kind of being trolled, and then it is Banjo. Like, it does take the air out of the room, but I would love to hear from developers though why the data for these characters end up in the game in the first place. Right. Like, why it can't just be a blank placeholder that we wait for? Because obviously there's a reason, because it's almost in any game. And in this article, they say they went to more than normal steps to hide it. And yet data miners are so persistent, they do it. Leaks just, part of this too is just control. People want control over their product and the announcement schedule. They put a lot of thought into it. Yeah. Right. And it's the timing, as we see with PR, is really important to them.
Yeah, I think it's also like unfortunate how like updates of games are handled these days, because when you think about it, like even if you don't buy a piece of DLC, the DLC these days acts like an unlock key. For example, with the Pokemon DLC or a game like Multiversus, you download the update upfront, and then the data is just there. Yeah. And they unlock a bunch of big chunks of data, even data that isn't ready yet to be in the game anyway. They already put it in the game just in case for future purposes. And there needs to be a balance of how much you really want to put in the game, because one way or another, someone will look at it, regardless of what you do or what you must.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's almost pointless to even discuss the merits of data mining or not. It's not going to change anything. Data mines are going to happen regardless, No one's going to stop. You can't stop all these people who do it, or whether out of interest or the acclaim of finding something that hasn't been out. And so it really is, I think, on the developers to safeguard that data as much as possible if they truly do care about it. Yes. Not being leaked, It's like, well, if it got leaked, that's just the way things are. And honestly, if your game depends on big announcements to be successful, then maybe that isn't the best strategy anyway. No. And I don't even know if data mines are. I have no idea how much they harm these announcements or not. Like, ultimately, people are still talking about it. Maybe twice as often, because you have the initial data mine hype, then you have the actual reveal hype. Yeah. And it'd be interesting to see if there's any way to actually break that down. I don't know if there is. I don't know how you would assess, the damage or benefit of a data mine happening. In any case, I totally understand the developer's perspective. Why they want, obviously they want control of how they announce things. On the other hand, I'm like, it's just marketing. It's hard for me to get that, to feel that sympathetic, because it's, it's a commercial, and the older I get, the more jaded I get to that kind of stuff, right?
I was gonna say this is Jade Dre talking. Jade Andre.
Exactly. I mean, it's more like, it's like I will play the thing when it's out, and whether I find out about it in a hype trailer or from a tweet, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change how I'm going to be interacting with it, right? Mm-hmm. And I obviously there are times in the past where I'm like, I'm glad that I was excited and surprised by something, but I also can't really remember being too disappointed by finding out something early either.
Right.
And and I think maybe, I don't know. I also think, like, in the grander scope, maybe that's for the better, that we don't have this constant hype cycle of game announcements, and we just focus more on the core of what they are. But that's just me talking. So
no. Ultimately, I think it really comes down to how well does a developer want to protect their data, or say the marketing team or any executive involved. because ultimately, if you give them too much tools or leverage to find that stuff, you're creating a problem for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've for the longest time I've been mixed on just not just data mine leaks, but just game leaks as a whole. There was a time where I like started blocking or muting like game industry leakers on Twitter because I was just getting really sick of constantly getting spoiled for things that were being announced. Yeah. Like this happened a lot it's happening now during the Switch 2 era, but I don't really care as much at this point. But it was happening a lot when the Switch was getting announced.
Right.
There was a few prominent leakers and I'm just like, okay, stop. I want to find this crap out for myself. Like, just stop trying to like spoil surprises and whatnot. But you almost gotta wonder if the big leak about the Switch, which was people finding out it was a handheld home console hybrid, which turned out to be true, you gotta help if that kind of excuse me, you gotta help if that kind of like tempered expectations a bit. Like, I think a lot of people were expecting the Switch hardware to be straight up like a Nintendo PS4 or something, but finding out what it actually was probably would have disappointed them when the trailer came out. I don't know. I might have changed the subject a bit too much from data mine leaks, but I kind of feel like these go hand in hand in a sense. Yeah, I think I am kind of becoming sort of like Andre in the sense where it's like I'm starting to not care about where I get this information from.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Like, I mean, I go back and forth even now, still too. You know, it's like sometimes, yeah, it's. I think it's a tricky issue, and you know, I do wonder, like, is there a separation or divide between data mines and leaks? You know, the end result's the same, but is the source of them? Does that factor in at all? Like, you know, data mining is done primarily with something content people already have on their system. Like, that's something they had, you know, they had to put in the effort and it was there and they discovered it. It's almost like, you know, an explorer or something in a sense. Whereas leaks feel a little different because that's like, you know, someone at a company generally purposefully leaking something, right? And that is almost more trouble. That's almost harder to contain, especially for like the bigger the company, the more opportunity for these leaks to happen. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know if I feel any different in that case either, but you know,
then you also have the intention of like quote unquote fake leaks with either false information or purposely done to create marketing material.
That's probably the most annoying aspect actually, are the fake leaks, right?
Yes.
Are people feeling the waters to see what the reaction would be? I'm going to say one that's unacceptable though. It's like basically being hacked. Like, let's say in the Naughty Dog Last of Us 2 documentary where like the whole story and spoilers like being put out there. That, or let's say like Half-Life 2 back in the day, that was like one of the first ones, and the guy like
source code
managed to get the code, like stuff like that. That I really feel bad for the developer.
Oh yeah, people need to be arrested for that crap. Yeah. Like, seriously.
Someone was in the Half-Life case.
Oh, good.
Yeah, in fact, what Valve ended up doing was they extended a job offer to the hacker, and they accepted, and that's when they arrested him.
Ha! They got him!
They were going to fly him into the country, but I think someone caught wind of this, and then they arrested him in his own home country. So.
Is the Naughty Dog leaker still at large? Someone needs to get that MFer, like, seriously.
I forget if they went into that in the documentary.
I'll have to watch
more
it
about
then.
the impact on the team.
It was, yeah. But I got to give a shout out to Pioro, the new OJ, as just mentioned. Pioro gets away with leaks. I'm like, yeah, Pioro's never missed, but they seem to not want to spoil the big surprises. Like, Pioro became at large like last year. I got to give them props for not spoiling the 1,000-Year Door announcement at the end of that direct. Thank you.
I do wonder where Pioro gets their information from. It's
well, Nintendo does too.
Yeah, they live in Japan apparently. They made a tweet and it had their location on it, and they quickly deleted it, I think. So it was from Kyoto, Japan.
You'll be amazing is if they did that on purpose just to throw off people. Like,
just while they're visiting there one time.
My gosh.
Let's say someone like Jeff Grubb has multiple sources. Usually they try not to rely on one, so that is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's we'll see what happens. Especially as as the rumors keep heating up with Switch 2. There haven't been a lot of rumors in regards to the games yet, but that's gonna turn up at some point as well, right?
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah.
I feel like just with the original Switch, I feel it almost happened in the last few months before the system came out.
It did.
Yeah.
It was just, they just went crazy. I'm sure half of them didn't even come true.
At least, probably.
Yes.
On one final topic of data mines, actually, there's one other element to this, I think. that doesn't actually pertain to like, new game announcements or like upcoming DLC for a game. But I think there's one of the aspects I actually probably find the most disappointing. I wonder if I'm unique in this, and that is the fact that like data miners could just like literally crack open how an entire game works. Like you can break, even for games like that try to emulate like a kind of a more realistic, not necessarily with visuals, but like a more realistic gameplay type, like Stardew Valley, for instance, where you're not supposed to know all the parameters necessarily, but that data miners can figure out exactly how everything works. I do think that takes away a little bit of the magic. I'll be honest. Yeah. I think that just detracts a little bit. It's like, I kind of like there to be some mystery to these games, like where through just observation, you can't always figure out the exact parameters of why something may happen. And the fact that we can do that now through data mining does take away. I know some developers don't care. They're like, put them out there, whatever. But as a player, I do find that a little dispiriting. I don't know. I can't fully tell you why that is, but it's almost like it kind of takes away from the magic a little bit of this.
I also think of the kind of person you are. If you're, for example, a speedrunner, that information is super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess you're right. It is, but yeah. I feel like even there, it's more interesting for me, at least on a on an observation level of someone figuring out through themselves rather than through a data mine, right? Like them finding out, like discovering it for themselves or bettering what someone else had discovered rather than just using a data mine to kind of shortcut your way there.
I think this goes to how you want to play a game too. Like I know Don's shirt reminds me of Velotro's developers talked about this, where some people kind of know how it works.
Yeah, shout out to
will like game it, but others like they might know, but they still want to play it normally. And like Tom Francis too, talking about how he understands some games so deeply. It's like you could go with pen and paper and figure out every stat exactly, but that's no fun to grind away at a game like that versus just kind of like thinking intuitively about what will happen.
Yes, for sure.
I can't imagine how Sakurai feels about data mines because he gets mad when people post the cutscenes after the game is out. I'm just like, come on, man.
Him, it would just completely ruin it and his efforts. So that's why they're like...
And we suffer for it by not getting a Subspace Emissary 2. Just ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous.
It's a whole nother topic.
I mean...
Why Sakurai was wrong. That's your next video, Joey.
Sakurai was wrong.
All right. Well, I think we're about done here unless we had any other thoughts on data mining or anything else, everyone.
Nope, not really.
Okay.
Winners don't data mine. No.
You wouldn't download a car.
There we go.
Amazing.
All right, everyone. That's going to wrap up for us here. Thank you so much for tuning into the pipeline. Make sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already for all of our upcoming pipelines and everything else, including more 1,000-Year Door content and a Joey feature coming up tomorrow, I believe. Maybe a couple of features, actually, depending on how we schedule things. And on that note, thanks for watching, and have a good weekend, everyone. It is Friday. My sense of time is so screwed up with 1,000-Year Door coming out Wednesday now. I know I'm not alone on that. It totally threw me off.
Yeah, for me, it still feels weird that games come out in Japan and Australia on Wednesday and then Thursday for the rest of the world. It makes no sense.
It's better for me. It's better for us. I think it's better from a work perspective. It just totally threw off my sense of time. And I don't, as a consumer, is that better or worse? I don't know. I felt like it felt kind of nice having the whole weekend to dedicate to it rather than doing a midweek. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyways,
at least you're guaranteed a copy unless you're in the US.
That's true. So, all right, everyone, have a good one. Bye.